Would you dare go down into a basement while hearing strange noises? Have you ever seen or heard something strange in Airbnb houses? Elena did. She listened, searched ... and found. Unfortunately, her stay didn't go very well after she chose this place. Finch Hollow wasn't in Elena's plans. The town barely even showed up properly on GPS, and she only managed to find the house after the Airbnb host sent a photo of the entrance, a rusty gate covered in ivy. The house stood atop Mercer Hill, a place the locals themselves avoided mentioning. The sun was setting as she parked her rental car. A thin mist had already gathered along the curves of the dirt road. The house was a Victorian structure, 3 stories tall with peeling paint. The attic windows looked like eyes always open, watching whoever arrived. In the front yard, faceless statues and poorly trimmed bushes. The host never appeared. He only left a message saying he had left the key under the doormat on the porch, and a warning at the end: please avoid the basement. It's full of old belongings from the previous owner. Nothing useful down there for you. Elena laughed to herself. Classic. There's always a basement, and always an old lady. Inside, the house was cold. The wooden floor creaked even when no one was walking. In the hallway, portraits covered in a veil of dust and forgetfulness. The bedroom was on the 2nd floor, with a large dark wooden bed and an old built-in wardrobe that smelled of mold. Next to the bed, a faded red upholstered armchair. On the wall, an oval mirror with a golden frame. There was something strange about it, something unsettling, but she was too tired to think. At 3 in the morning, Elena woke up. She didn't know exactly why. It wasn't a nightmare. It wasn't thirst, but there was a sound. A repetitive, metallic, rhythmic sound. Tack, ... tack, ... tack, ... tack, ... tack, ... tack, ... The sound of a needle-piercing fabric. Elena remained still. She tried to rationalize. Must be plumbing. Or some neighbors sewing in the middle of the night. I don't know. But she knew there were no neighbors nearby. Nothing for kilometers around. And that sound came from the floor, from the basement. She covered herself with the sheet and stayed like that until dawn, waiting for the sound to stop. But it didn't stop until the sun came up. The next day dawned gray. Finch Hollow seemed to live in a constant state of dim light. Elena tried to ignore the bad night's sleep, blaming the stress of the trip and the house's gloomy atmosphere. She made coffee, explored the kitchen, opened some windows to air out the house's old smell. But something was bothering her. Her favorite blouse. A light cotton one she had left folded on the suitcase was now hanging on the mirror. And not only that, there was a small tear on the side, hand-sewn, stitch by stitch, precise, almost invisible. But it wasn't done by her. She looked at her own arms, small scratches. There were 2 cuts that hadn't been there the day before. At night, again, the sound. Tack ... tack ... tack ... This time she decided to go down. Step by step, she passed the staircase leading to the basement. She stopped. Silence. But as soon as she pressed her ear to the door, the sound came back. Tack ... as if the sewing machine knew she was there. In the middle of the night, she had a dream. Or she thought she did. She was lying down, motionless, and someone was sewing something into her belly. She felt the needle piercing skin and flesh, but couldn't scream. When she woke up, there was dried blood on the sheet and a small stitch. Red thread on the right side of her abdomen. Elena went to the mirror. She looked. The stitch was really there, going through her skin. She tried to ignore it, thinking the change in air had given her mild hallucinations. On the third day, Elena didn't leave the house. She felt as if the house was sucking her in, as if the air was denser, harder to breathe. Every time she thought about leaving, something distracted her. The open suitcase in the room, with clothes missing, the phone with no network, the constant sensation of being watched. In the afternoon, while exploring the back of the house, she found a wooden door half covered by vines. It was the basement's external entrance. It was locked with an old padlock, but a harder push broke through the rust and opened it. The smell inside was stifling, a mixture of damp fabric, rotten wood, and something else. As she descended the damp steps, daylight faded until only the beam from her phone's flashlight remained. Hanging from the ceiling were old dresses, all handmade, all in fabrics that seemed alive. There was something in the folds resembling veins, as if the dresses breathed. In the center of the basement, a table with a black sewing machine, the manual type with a pedal, but even turned off, it moved on its own. The needle went up and down, sewing the void. Beside it, on a rack, an unfinished dress, red, long, sewn from a fabric that made Elena nauseous just by looking at it. But what scared her most was realizing that it was exactly her size. She looked at her own arms. Recent scars, stitches, symmetrical cuts. On the wall, old portraits with faces of unknown women. Below each picture, a name and a date. She didn't understand right away, but when she touched the most recent frame, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. An unfinished name was being carved there, with the tip of an old needle still stuck in the wood. And it began with the letter E. Elena stepped back in panic. The needle in the frame trembled on its own, as if someone was pushing it from the other side of the wood. She ran back to the room, locked the door, and stayed silent, trying to control her breathing. But the house was alive now. She could feel it. The walls seemed to emit a low, constant hum. And with each passing hour, her movements became slower, as if something was draining her energy. When she lay down, the mattress seemed to envelop her like a cocoon. The next morning, when trying to leave, she noticed that the front door handle was locked from the inside. The key had disappeared. She went back to the basement, determined to find a way out. That's when she saw a metal lever behind a trunk leaning against the back wall. She pulled hard, and a section of brick opened with a dry creak. Behind it, a narrow, dark corridor. With the phone in hand, she moved slowly, the smell of old fabric and dry sweat growing stronger with each step. At the end of the corridor, a hidden room. A subterranean space, lined with wooden shelves full of dresses. Hundreds of them, each carefully hung with handwritten tags. She came closer and read the first. Martha Ellingsworth, 1953. The second, Lena Rue, 1972, and so on. Each dress was unique, molded to the shape of a woman, all in bizarre fabrics, all with a horrible feeling to the touch. Warm, almost alive. On a central pedestal, a freshly sewn red dress. Above it, hanging on the wall, a painting. Alana's heart raced. It was her own image, painted in absurd detail. Wearing that red dress, lifeless eyes, her neck sewn with red stitches. Below the portrait, the freshly finished inscription, Elena Grace, 2024, she screamed. But the sound died in the stuffy air. When she tried to run, the room began to spin. The lights flickered. The dresses swayed on the racks as if there was wind. But there were no windows. In the darkness, a voice whispered behind her, "You were the last one." Elena woke up on the cold basement floor. She was wearing the red dress. She didn't remember putting it on, or even returning there. The fabric stuck to her skin as if it were part of her. She tried to tear it off, but she couldn't. The stitches went through her body, The sewing machine worked non-stop. There was no more pedal, no more thread. Yet it kept sewing. Around her, figures emerged, faces known only from the portraits in the dresses. Women from different times, with empty eyes, sewing an immense tapestry hanging from the ceiling, made of skin, strands of hair, and small name tags. And then she understood. That wasn't just a dress. It was a seal. Every woman who wore that piece was marked, spiritually bound to the original seamstress. A woman who, decades ago, made a pact with the devil. In exchange for eternal youth, she had to create dresses with the soul of each guest the house accepted. Now, Elena was part of it. Her body collapsed to the floor like an empty cocoon, but her consciousness was sucked into that hidden room where time doesn't pass. The tapestry moved on its own. The thread pulsed. The other souls kept sewing, moaning quietly, trapped in an eternal cycle of needles and silence. And then the machine stopped. For a second, everything was calm. But then, a new sound began to echo through the house walls. The door opened upstairs. Light footsteps from someone with suitcases. A woman's voice on the phone. "Hi, I've arrived. Wow, the house is really beautiful. I just found this weird note here. Avoid the basement." And then the sewing machine started again. Tack dot 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 dot. And Elena, now faceless, nameless, timeless, whispered from within the tapestry. "Run dot dot, please run before she sees you." And you? Would you dare sleep in a place where so many people have disappeared? And if it were you, would you have escaped the seamstress in the basement? Tell us in the comments. Have you ever experienced anything strange in an old house? Have you ever heard a legend like this in your town? What country do you want the next scary story to come from? Don't forget to like and share this story with your friends.